Hi, it's Allie and welcome back to my channel. So for today's video, I'm going to do a book haul, but before that, I just wanted to let you know, I want to apologize for wearing my hat, but currently in Texas, we've had rolling power outages and we finally have our electricity back full time, but we have a boil notice for our water, so I'm not able to take a shower and wash my hair. So today, I'm just going to have to make do with wearing my hat. So today I want to talk about all of the books that I have. I actually purchased these books in January, but I already had 20 books in my book haul last month and I didn't want to add even more to that. Otherwise the video would have been super long. So today I have 20 books that I want to talk about. So let's get into it. So first up, I have It Sounded Better in My Head by Nina Kenwood, and this is a young adult romance. So in this book, we follow Natalie, and Natalie's parents have gotten a divorce, and it changes her plans for college that she had had. Not only did her parents get divorced, but her two best friends are now in a relationship, and no one likes to be the third wheel. One night, Natalie goes to a party and sees a boy that she thought was completely different than what he actually is. I'm excited to read this. I think it will be a fun read. I've been reading a lot more romances lately, or at least gravitating towards them. So in my list today, I have quite a few romances here, both young adult and adult romances. Next up, I have 3 Jen Bennett books, and the first one is Starry Eyes. And Starry Eyes follows Zori and Lennon, and they are best friends turned enemies. They get stranded out in the wilderness and they have to hash out their issues. Now, once they resolve their issues, will their issues survive outside in the real world? So I've heard so many good things about Jen Bennett books, and that's why I have 3 of them here, but I'm so excited to read them. I've heard they're just feel-good romances. Next up, I have Serious Moonlight, and this book follows Birdie and Daniel. Birdie has always dreamed of being a detective, and the summer before her first year of college, she works for a hotel, and there she meets Daniel. And Daniel finds maybe a real life mystery for him and Birdie to solve. Once again, this is just going to be a fun book to read. I've heard that this book gives off fall vibes, though it's not necessarily set in the fall. So I'm not sure if I will read this soon or if I will wait till fall to read this book. The last Jen Bennett book I have is The Lady Rogue, and this is her only fantasy novel that she has. This book follows Theodora and Huck, and they are trying to find Dracula's ring, but they aren't the only ones searching for it. There's also a cult that is directly connected to Dracula that is searching for this ring as well. So I haven't heard of anyone actually reading this book yet. I have definitely heard of people who have picked it up just because it is a Jen Bennett book. So I'm not sure how good the book is, but I'm excited to read it. I love fantasy, and I've heard good things obviously about Jen Bennett's romances, so I thought I would pick it up and give it a try. Next up, I have To Be Honest by Maggie Ann Martin, and this follows a girl named Savannah. She's going to be a senior in high school this year, and her bigger sister just went off to college. So she's already struggling with some change this year and all the normal stresses of being a senior in high school. But to go on top of that, she also has a mom that is nagging her on her weight and is all about her losing weight and what she should and should not eat. So I think this will be interesting to read. There's not many books out there that are about bigger women or bigger girls, about body positivity. So I'm excited to read this book. Next up, I have 2 books by Alicia Wright, and they are both adult romances. The first is The Right Swipe, and this book follows Wright, who created a dating app. She's always been cynical about romance, but she meets a former professional football player, Samson, but then he ghosts her. Months later, he ends up coming back into her life, but she is skeptical about having a relationship with him again. So I think this is going to be a very fun romance to read. Next up is by the same author, and that is Girl Gone Viral. This book follows Katrina, and she meets a random guy at a coffee shop. Not only is he just a random guy, but he live tweeted the experience of meeting her and tagged it as a meet cute. So she has gone viral on Twitter, and people are trying to find her for this guy. But she does not have feelings for him. She has another crush. And her crush has invited her to stay at his farm so that she can gain refuge from the Twitter meet cute. Now, she always thought that her crush didn't like her and that he just wanted to be friends, but now she's starting to think that that's not the case. I've not heard a lot about Girl Gone Viral, but The Right Swipe I have heard a lot about, so I'm sure since it's by the same author that it's going to be just as good. Next up, I have Incantation by Alice Hoffman. And this book follows Estrella, and she's in Spain during a terrible century when they forced Jews to convert into Christians. And the Jews that did not convert into Christians risked everything in their lives. So this is a very short book, but I thought that the concept of the book sounded very interesting. I don't know that I've ever read anything during that time period in Spain, so I'm excited to get to read this. I love historical fiction, and it's been a little while since I've read something similar to this. Next up, I have an historical fantasy, and that is In the Shadows of Blackbirds by Kat Winters. Now, this book is set in Spain also, but during the Spanish influenza. So not only does this take place in a very difficult time in history for Spain, but there are also ghosts in the story. It's set in 1918, so it kind of reminds me a little bit of The Diviners, because that is set in the 1920s and has ghosts in it as well, but this book takes place in a different location. I'm excited to read this. This was Kat Winters' debut novel, and it got raving reviews, so I'm excited to read it. Next up, I have Fake It Till You Break It by Jen Guyon. As you've guessed it, it is a fake dating book. So Mia and Jake are teenagers, and their parents are best friends. Their parents have been begging them to date for a very long time, and Mia's mom scared off her last boyfriend, so Mia and Jake made a deal that if they fake dated and then staged an epic breakup, that their parents would finally leave them alone. But their fake dating didn't go quite as they had planned. Once again, it's a fake dating trope, so they end up fake dating, but it ends up being a little bit more than just that. I love the fake dating tropes. I think it's just interesting to see how they get from being friends to falling in love. Next up, I have The Lost Crown by Sarah Miller. And this book is about the 4 princesses, and their names are Olga, Tatiana, Maria, and Anastasia. We all know that name, Anastasia. We thought that the whole family died, and then someone showed up years later claiming to be her. There are so many books and movies that are about her, but this is about her whole family. It's about her family a little bit before the revolution and after the revolution starts. So as much as I've heard about Anastasia, I've not actually read anything about her family. So I'm excited to read this book and learn more about that time in history for Russia. So next up, I have the Poison's Kiss duology by Brianna Shields. And the second book is called Poison's Cage. Now, right now it's duology. I'm not sure if there's going to be an additional book in the series yet or not. I'll have to look into that. But these books follow Miranda, and she has been trained to kill someone with poison by just kissing them. And she is somewhat of an assassin in these books. And in the first book, she ends up falling for a boy, but how can she kiss him if her kiss kills? I'm really interested to see how this concept pans out in both of these books. I think it's a very interesting concept. Next up, I have Love, Life, and the List by Casey West. And this book follows Abby, and she is an artist, but she has been declined for her art, saying that it doesn't have heart. So she makes a list of 10 things that she says if she completes these 10 things that she will become a great artist. Now, to complete these things, one of the things is that she has to fall in love, and she has a huge crush on her best friend. Now, some of the other things also have to do with her mom, who has issues with anxiety that she has to help out a lot. So I've heard so many good things about Casey West's book, so I'm excited to get into this book. Next up, I have Dreamland Burning by Jennifer Latham. And this book follows 2 different timelines. The first timeline follows Rowan, and her family find a skeleton on her property that was murdered. The second timeline follows Will Tillman, and this is during the Jim Crow time frame around when Tulsa burns. So I'm excited to read this. I think it'll be very interesting with 2 different timelines and to see how they interweave together. Next up is Glitter by April Lynn Pike, and this book follows Danica, and we are in France. Outside of the Palace Versailles, it is modern day, but when you go inside of the palace, everyone dresses and acts like it's the 18th century. Danica witnesses a murder, and using this, her mother blackmails the king into making Danica his fiancé. But Danica doesn't want to be locked into Versailles as a prisoner. The only thing that can free her is glitter. Glitter is a drug, and she has to sell enough of it to make money to escape. So I think this is very interesting. I've not heard of anything quite like this. So it's somewhat of a contemporary but historical fiction at the same time. So I think it'll be very interesting to see how those things combine. And the second book also is out now. So if I finish this and I really enjoy this, I can move on to the second one. I love reading books that the series is already out, because if I know after reading the first book there's going to be another one, I would much prefer the second book to be out already, because I'm very impatient. So if the first book leaves off on a cliffhanger, I don't really want to wait that long to read the next book. Next up, I have The Good Luck Charm by Helena Hunting. I've heard so many good books about Helena Hunting, so I'm excited to read this. This book follows Lila, and she loves Ethan, and he's a hockey player, but Ethan ends up leaving her for his hockey career. 8 years later, he shows back up and wants her back, but she's not sure that he's really there for the relationship. She thinks he's just using her. So I'm really excited to read this. I've heard so many good things about Helena Hunting's book. She has so many good romances. I think this will be a very fun read. Next up, I have Annie Between the States by L.M. Eliot. Annie lives in Virginia during the Civil War. Her two brothers fight for the Confederate Army, and her mom tend to wounded soldiers. Until one day a Union soldier comes in that Annie has to tend to, but then her loyalty is questioned. So Annie has to decide how she really feels about the conflict between the states. I'm really excited to get back into reading historical fiction. My last two books are the first two books in the Sea Fire trilogy by Natalie C. Parker. The first is Sea Fire and the second is Steel Tide. And these books follow a band of female pirates who are trying to overtake a warlord. I'm super excited to read these. I love pirates, and I think with them all being female, I think it'll be a very fun adventure to follow. Thank you so much for watching my video today. I want to apologize again for having to wear a hat, but it is what it is, and hopefully next time we will have all of our water working and our electricity. But let me know down in the comments if you have read any of these books and what you thought about them. No spoilers, please, but just let me know if you thought the books were good or not, or if you plan to read any of these books as well. Make sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon if you want notified when I post new content. All these books that I mentioned in the video will be linked down below if you wanted to check those out, as well as all my social media accounts. Again, thank you so much for watching my video. I'll see you next time. Bye.